The worst thing anyone ever said about me wasn't shouted in a fight. It was whispered with a smile at a wedding. Have you ever felt a whole room decide you don't matter, like you're a prop in someone else's perfect night? That was me at table 7, emerald dress, empty chair, pretending the centerpiece was interesting enough to hide behind. The music was warm, the lighting soft, that buttery hotel glow that makes sequins look like stars. And I was doing the invisible person shuffle, sip, smile, nod, fade, you know what I mean? My +1 had texted that morning food poisoning. Sorry. Which is funny, because that kind of stomach bug clears up fast when a photographer from a local magazine shows up. The maid of honor chimed her glass. Jessica. She smiled thin and sharp. True love finds everyone eventually, she said, then paused. Well, almost everyone. Laughter rolled through the room like a lazy wave. Not cruel, just the easy kind that follows a script. I felt my face heat 13 again. Wrong shoes, wrong table, wrong life. A waiter set down a fresh flute. From the gentleman at the bar, he said like it was nothing. I turned and saw him. Dark suit that looked like it had shaken hands with his shoulders before agreeing to stay. Brown hair, calm eyes, the kind of presence that doesn't brag because it doesn't need to. He lifted his glass toward me, not smug, not flirty, just certain. My stomach did that roller coaster dip. Then I told myself the truth. I thought I knew men like that don't send champagne to women like me. He started walking over anyway. I checked behind me because of course he was headed for someone else. He wasn't. He threaded through congratulations and handshakes like a person who had already chosen his next 5 minutes. Excuse me, he said. Warm voice, steady pace, I'm Ethan. I hope you don't mind. I said I was. Amelia tried to make my laugh sound like I belonged there. Can I sit for a minute? He asked, and I gestured to the empty chair that had been mocking me for an hour. My date bailed. He nodded as if the room had been daring him to sit, and he finally decided to accept. We did the polite dance, how do you know? The couple isn't. She glowing. Isn't the band great? And then the music shifted. Voices rose and he leaned in like he didn't want to raise his voice or my heart rate. Would you help me with something? He asked. Pattern interrupt. I blinked. Then he said it quiet, careful, like he knew what he was asking, and still had to ask. I need you to act like you're mine tonight. Wait, I know exactly how that sounds. If it were you, what would you have done? He kept his eyes on mine because that's where truth lives, and he explained. His ex was there. Persistent, dramatic, convinced that 6 months and a pile of unresolved history meant the door was still propped open. He needed cover, not drama. Sit with me, maybe dance once or twice, let me get through the evening without a scene. Nothing weird, no lines crossed. I told him I wasn't exactly leading lady material. He said 2 things soft but firm. First, you're beautiful. Second, you have something she doesn't. I asked what? Kindness, he said, and somehow that word cracked a window in my chest. I said yes. We built a story fast. Met through work 3 months, taking it slow. He reached for my hand as a shadow fell across the table, and there she was, red dress knife, smile, everything in place down to the hair that said, I wake up at 5 a.m. to be this effortless. Ethan, darling. I was hoping we could talk privately. He didn't let go of me. Caroline, this is my girlfriend Amelia. The word girlfriend hovered between us like a dare. I kept my voice level. Nice to meet you. She blinked once, cataloging me like a problem to be solved. Unexpected, she said, which is the polite version of really her. We passed the follow-up questions. How long, where do you work for him? No. With him partners. Not technically true, but the way his thumb pressed against my hand said it was the truest thing in the room for the next 5 minutes. He asked me to dance. On the floor under all that soft light, I could feel my breath sink with the rhythm, his hand a promise to lead, but never steer me off a cliff. "You're doing great," he murmured. "She hates me already," I said. "Good," he smiled. "That means it's working." I laughed, and I don't laugh when I'm being tested, but it came out anyway, a little burst of oxygen. Back at table 7, we ran into the bride. Rebecca. White silk, new ring, a story I used to feel like I was part of. "Amelia," she said, eyes flicking from our joined hands to my face, "I thought Kevin was your +1. Ethan stepped in the way a bass line holds a song together without showing off. I know Amelia was excited to introduce me to her best friend. Best. That word landed like a hiccup I couldn't swallow. We got through the small talk. After she left, Ethan looked at me. "Are you happy to be here with me?" he asked. It was a simple question, but simple can be surgical. I told him the truth. "I am." We stayed at that table and let a whole hour roll by like it owed us something. Ohio childhoods. Sunday pancakes. Mystery novels, the quiet way loneliness hides inside accomplishment. It was easy, and easy scared me more than conflict ever has. Before the night was over, he asked for a real dinner, not pretend, just us. I said yes, and that word felt like a door opening at the end of a hallway I thought was a dead end. Quick one for you. Do you believe in fast sincerity when the pieces click? Or is that just a pretty name for a good way to get hurt? The restaurant the next night was small and warm, checkered cloths, candles that had burned enough to look like they were melted on purpose. He offered me a job. I know. Even telling it now, it sounds like a fairy tale someone forgot to proofread. His company builds software to help small medical practices talk to patients like they're people, not files, not numbers. He needed a marketing director, not a coat of polish, a strategy from scratch. "You barely know me," I said. He said he knew all he needed to start. That I notice things, think on my feet, tell the truth even when my voice shakes. I told him I'd visit the office, meet the team, ask questions that might scare him. He smiled like he loves good questions more than easy answers. The office was a converted warehouse, sun spilling through tall panes, green everywhere. The kind of space that makes your lungs taller. People were working like they belonged to the work, not to the clock. He walked me through the product, not the pitch, and I felt that small internal click, not magic, not fireworks, more like the clean sound of a key turning. "I want the job," I said, and he looked proud, not possessive, which matters more than anyone tells you. We set dinner to celebrate. I floated for hours. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. 3 weeks later, Caroline arrived at my office without an appointment, because rules are for other people. She sat, crossed her legs, smiled like a blade, and sliced me quietly. "Ethan doesn't date women like you," she said. "He collects projects and calls them charity until he gets bored. Then he marries someone who fits the family pictures." She asked when we really met, hinted that my job was a thank you gift wrapped in opportunity. I kept my voice steady. I asked her to leave. She did, but not before planting seeds that sprout in the dark. That night, rooftop city poured out below us like a handful of diamonds someone threw across black velvet. He took my hand, said the last few weeks had felt like the best few years, and I asked him if he hired me because convenience is easier to manage than vulnerability. He went still the way people do when they've been misunderstood. "Where is that coming from?" he asked. "Caroline." I said I needed time. He nodded, even though it looked like swallowing glass would have hurt less. In the car outside my building, he said, "I chose you." I said I don't feel extraordinary. he said. That's one of the reasons I love you. Love. It sat between us like a light I wasn't sure I deserved to turn on. We took a step back and life decided that wasn't chaotic enough. His father came to see me. Thomas Mitchell. The suit, the gravitas, the concern packaged as advice. He talked about conflicts of interest, legal optics, fairness to the team, how fast I'd been hired, how romantic and professional lines blur in ways that can drown everyone involved. He wasn't entirely wrong, which almost made it worse. He suggested distance. He asked if I wanted to build a career on my merit or on someone's affection. After he left, I sat in my office staring at a plant that needed water and wondered if maybe I had been the project Carolyn said I was. So I did what I do when doubt starts collecting in corners I worked. Partnerships with medical associations, a beta list so long, we had to add phases, pilots in 5 states, numbers that didn't just look good, they looked true. Numbers don't fix everything, but they quiet certain rooms. Then came the twist, the one that flipped the floor. Thomas returned with a folder. My past as a stack of pages I had never seen. A termination letter I had never received. Accusations of accessing confidential files, of sharing with a competitor. It was like watching someone forge your signature while making eye contact. I told him it was a lie. He asked if I could prove it. And here's a grown-up fact too many of us learn the hard way. Truth and proof are neighbors who don't always answer the door at the same time. That night, Ethan showed up at my office because I missed our reservation. I could have hidden the folder, tried to fix it alone the way I always do until I break, but I handed it to him. He read every page slower than I expected, then looked at me like there wasn't a jury on earth that could change his mind. I believe you, he said. Not let's wait, not show me more, not give me time. I believe you. Do you know what that does to a person who's been apologizing for existing since she was old enough to notice she took up space? We got to work. I called my former boss, braced for polite indifference, and got something better. A written statement same night confirming what I had told everyone from the start. Budget cuts. No misconduct. No policy broken. Ethan called a friend who knows a friend who knows a firm, and by 10 we had a report from a private investigator connecting the forged documents to a boutique company Caroline had paid. Corporate sabotage, but couture. I didn't shake with fear. I shook with the kind of anger that finally knows where to go. We met Thomas the next morning. Conference room, 3 chairs, the folder he brought. The folder we brought. He read. The line of his mouth changed shape. Caroline did this, he said finally. Caroline paid for this, Ethan answered, not unkind, just exact. Thomas apologized. Concern had bent into control without him noticing. He saw it. That matters. We gave Caroline a choice that afternoon in her office with the 2 clean glass desks. She denied, then we set the PI report down and watched the denial melt. You win, she said, which is what people say when the only other sentence left is I was wrong. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like yanking a splinter that had been making me feverish without a rash. Inside the company, the air changed. People whisper. They wondered about equity. They asked whether I was getting a slice of the thing I helped build. Some looked at me like I had earned my seat, some like they were counting the ways a woman can still be accused of getting what she worked for by loving the man who recognized it. Ethan didn't dodge. He said my fingerprints were on every win worth bragging about, that leadership isn't fealty, it's impact, that transparency beats gossip when you pour enough light on it. Meanwhile, a healthcare consortium in California waved an opportunity so big we had to squint. Licensing across a network, hundreds of practices, the kind of scale that changes the math for real people who miss appointments because the system keeps dropping their names into cracks. It meant moving the headquarters to San Francisco. He asked if I'd go with him, not like a command, like a question with respect built into the punctuation. I said yes with conditions. I want to be an equal partner in the expansion equity decisions, not the girlfriend who happens to have a keycard. He said done like he'd been waiting for me to draw the box he'd planned to fill anyway. Right when it looked simple again, Rebecca called. Word travels fast when people are bored. She asked if I was in love or just grateful if I was moving cross-country because I believed in the work or because I didn't want to sit alone at table 7 ever again. Do you think that's fair? I didn't sleep. So I went to Ethan and said, no more curated answers. Tell me the parts of your story that don't look good in a magazine. He did. A father who built a company and missed dinners, a son who started his own because he wanted to do it differently and still felt the weight of people loving his money more than his laugh. I asked how he knew I was different. He said I never asked him for anything, and I still have to be talked into taking credit for work with my name on it. That hit like truth. We moved. And here's the part that isn't on a postcard. California didn't welcome us with a parade. We lost people who couldn't or wouldn't uproot. We had to hire brilliant strangers and trust them fast. The fog rolled in at odd hours, and the rent made my stomach flutter, but the work kept clicking, not flashy, just steady. Clinics sent data that felt like stories, appointment. No show rates, dropping messages answered in hours instead of days. A grandmother texting her doctor because her granddaughter set up the app, and that one frictionless moment might be the reason she caught something early. No, we're not heroes, but we are patching a hole. 6 months in, I stood at a window with a coffee I didn't make, watching the bay put on its silver jacket, and he walked over with a look I'd seen exactly once the night he asked for Pretend. He pulled out a small box. I said, I have a regret. His face flinched. I said I regret that it took me this long to believe good things might actually be good. He laughed the way he cries, asked a question that was only ever going to have one answer, and I said yes with every cell that had learned how to say no to things that once looked like rescue, but were really traps. That's my story, the version without the airbrushing, with the lines that still don't make me look smart, and the ones that finally do. But I want to leave you with the thing that keeps haunting me in a useful way. We love to talk about merit and fairness until a relationship crosses an org chart, then suddenly the rules get weird. Is a workplace relationship inherently unfair when one person has more structural power, even if you put up guardrails, even if you publish the process, even if performance is real and measurable, even if both people insist on accountability? Is equity still suspect when the person earning it is also the person you go home with? Where is the line between protection and control, between concern and sabotage? If it were you, what would you have done when the X in the red dress came for your reputation with a forged past, when the father placed a folder between you and your future, when your best friend asked if love was just relief wearing expensive cologne? I can tell you this much. Love didn't save me. Work did. Truth did. The stubborn decision to believe that kindness is not a liability did. Ethan didn't rescue me, he recognized me, and I recognized the part of me that had been told to shrink and decided to grow anyway. I didn't get a cape either, but I did get a partner who holds the flashlight steady when I need both hands to climb, and I do the same for him. If you're still here, thank you for sitting with me through the messy parts. Tell me what you think in the comments, don't hold back. Was any of this fair? Did we cross lines you don't forgive, or did we draw new ones you'd consider walking? Have you ever been the person at table 7 counting the minutes until someone sees you and what happened when they finally did. Share your take, your story, your pushback. And if this hit you anywhere you still feel, stick around, hit subscribe, because we're going to keep talking like real people about the nights that change everything.